Bersie, about that letter I sent you from prison.
I never got it. What did it say?
Nothing much. It was just my testament. De profundis.
Oh, Oscar, you silly old fairy. Come here.
I am my own Judas.
Rupert, welcome to Chicago.
Thank you very much.
I first got to tell you, The Happy Prince was such a touching / heartbreaking film.
Oh, thank you very much.
It was a really wonderful film, and I'm not a filmmaker, and a lot of people that watching are not filmmakers, so how do you go from, because you also wrote and directed this as well as starred in it.
And produced it.
And produced it, so how do you go from being in front of the camera and directing at the same time?
Well, it was not as difficult, that side of it, as you might imagine. I'd chosen and made friends with an amazing director of photography, and I think that was the secret of my success. He was this gigantic rugby player type guy, John Conway, and he also operated the camera, and we decided on this mostly handheld mode of expression, camera-wise. Okay. And we were in the rooms together, and we really moved as one. I mean, the difficulty sometimes was I would be in the middle of a death rattle and then have to start screaming at some technician and then go straight back into the death rattle.
Did you do it all in Oscar Wilde's voice too, to stay in character?
Screaming at the technicians?
Yes, exactly.
No.
You broke character?
I broke character. And so going back in and getting out was sometimes difficult, and sometimes, once I was putting the movie together and looking at my performance, I was quite often rushing. You know, one of the things you should never do as an actor is you shouldn't rush, and also you shouldn't be too slow. So you need to do things in exactly the right timing. And I rushed because, rather sweetly in a way, I was always so keen to get the scene finished to get on to the next one, because in my director's hat, I was always worrying about making the day and finishing on time. And but really, I think the thing I did best, if I did anything well, was choosing all the people around me, all the technicians, the production designer, the costumes, and the actors. All of them were perfect for me.
Awesome. And you said in previous interviews, in so many words, that Hollywood wasn't really knocking on your door for roles that you love and that you'd be interested in. So you made a role for yourself. Can you tell me a little bit about that?
Well, I think, when I got to a point in about 2005, 2006, when I felt I was kind of washed up. You have a choice when you face that washed up moment as to whether you just accept being washed up or you're going to fight back. And I felt like fighting back. I couldn't face the idea of, just disappearing.
Sure.
So
we couldn't, because we want more Rupert Everett.
Well, that's very kind of you. And so I wrote the role for myself, really not with the idea of directing it, actually. I'd hoped to find another director. In fact, I wrote it for a friend who's a director. And anyway, one thing led to another, and nobody else wanted to direct it. All the kinds of people I liked, of course, had millions of their own projects they were trying to get off the ground and didn't really particularly want to get off on my project. So I was left to direct it on my own, or go back to the washed up situation. And so I decided there was nothing else for it but to try and do it myself.
Sure. And this film, The Happy Prince, took place in the late 1800s, in around 1900.
Yeah.
And this persecution of this man in the States and the UK, that doesn't happen, but there are a lot of places. So did that make it feel so timely that we're still hearing in the news about these places that are still being treated almost the same way that Oscar Wilde did in, hundreds of years ago?
I think personally, I feel that history is the best thing for us. It gives us such a context for ourselves to feel good sometimes, particularly in the journey that's been taken from his time to our time in, as you say, our country and your country. But also realizing that in 3/4 of the world, it's still a life and death challenge, being gay or lesbian or transgender. And even in our world, when you're a minority, you always have to be vigilant, because the majority always looks to the minority to bully as soon as things go wrong. And boy, are things going wrong everywhere at the moment in both our countries.
Yeah.
So I think stories like this are great stories. For anyone gay or lesbian or transgender, Oscar Wilde is the start of our journey, as a matter of fact. It simply didn't exist to be homosexual as a word before Oscar Wilde. It wasn't a debate that was had by the world in general until him. So I think it's great for us to have our saints and our talismans and our Christ figures in all movements. And so I'm hoping that this story will inspire people as it's inspired me.
Absolutely. So I'm wondering, Rupert, if you could speak to Oscar Wilde right now today in some way, shape, or form, what would you say to him?
I don't think I would. I've learnt one thing during my career. Meeting people is not so much, it's not all it's cranked up to be.
Fair
it's
enough.
much better to see them in the context you discover them.
Sure.
This desperation that we've kind of engendered in the 20th century of trying to get to stars or celebrities or famous people.
Understood.
I think you'll normally be disappointed because they're never going to be able to live up to your dream of them, and you're much better off keeping the Polaroid snap that you've made of them rather than having to discover that they're actually the same dirty dog as everybody else.
Sure.
I mean, Wilde, I think for me the thing about Wilde that I love is that he is very human, actually. He's full of faults and human frailties, and for me that's what is attractive about him. So I don't think I would be disappointed by him because I don't think of him in the same way, for example, that the other three films that were made about him do. They present a fairly iconic, heroic, grave Wilde. I don't think he was like that. So I don't think I would be disappointed. But at the same time, what I'd rather be is get into a time machine and be able to go and watch him.
Well, 21 years ago in Chicago, filmed in Chicago 22 years ago, was one of my favorite films that you were in, and that's My Best Friend's Wedding.
Right.
And you played George in that film. And you go to the Drake Hotel to go see Julia Roberts, and try to help her not do bad things with her best friend and ruin their wedding. And so I was always thinking that George never got to be pampered at the Drake Hotel. He only stayed there like for the day and then left. So I talked to my friends actually at the Drake Hotel.
I've got a free room?
Told them that you're coming, and then for the Gold Coast suite there, whenever you want to come back.
You are kidding.
And then when you want to too, they have an afternoon tea for you as well. So damn it, George is going to be pampered this time.
Oh, that's so good. That's a very good promo thing I could do.
Yeah, go for it. So enjoy.
That's brilliant. Who do you know at the Drake Hotel?
I just called a few of my friends over there, and they told them about you coming back. They're like, oh my God. Even the girl on the phone was like, I love My Best Friend's Wedding. So she was already on board.
God, that's such a good idea. I should have definitely been doing everything at the
Well,
Drake.
now next time you come back, I'll buy you a drink too.
Okay, fantastic.
Nice to meet you, Rupert,
Thank you
and
very
congrats
much
on the
indeed.
film.
That's excellent. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.